Hi and good evening, viewers. Welcome to another episode of today's program, A Pillar in the Community. We're quite happy to have Adrianna Belinski with us today, who is from an organization called Water First. And Water First is an organization that works with the indigenous community to try and bring education to them and knowledge to them about clean water, about how they can test water quality. They have training programs, etc. And so I'm quite happy to have Adrianna with me on the program. Welcome to the program, Adrianna. How are you today?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing really great. Thank you. How are
Okay,
you?
good, good. So I'm glad to have you on the program. And I know Water First is doing fantastic things, when it comes to water quality and working with the indigenous community here in Canada. I just want to find out if you can tell us a little bit about Water First. Tell us about the organization and how it all started.
Yeah, it's actually a really great story. The organization started as Tin Roof Global in 2009. And so Tin Roof Global was working out in Uganda, building water treatment systems based on the rainfall. And the organization was based out of Ontario here in Canada, and there were a lot of locals asking questions about why are you going all the way out to Uganda to help, bring drinking water to those communities when there are communities here in Canada that still don't have clean drinking water. And so the organization founder kept getting this question, and so he took that question with a grain of salt and started to look at local communities and a lot of Indigenous communities that were facing Indigenous water challenges, both drinking water and environmental challenges. So in 2012, they started working with Indigenous communities. And then by 2016, we changed from Tin Roof Global to Water First, and we're working exclusively with Indigenous communities in Canada now, not internationally out in Uganda anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Why go all the way out to Uganda when you have people right here who needs that same service? So where are you guys located?
Yeah, we're located in a small town called Creemore. Um,
Okay.
it's kind of between Barrie and Collingwood.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just the town that the founder lived in, and he got some office space, and it just made sense to work out of
To
Creemore.
work there. So the communities that you work is not strictly in that community. It's
No,
all across Canada, correct?
that's right. Yeah. So
Okay.
we were working, the very first community that we worked with was not Sheshkawaning, Shawanaga First Nation. And that was I'd say about a 2-hour drive from the office. So still pretty local. You can make a day trip out of it. But as the years have gone by, we're traveling further and further across Canada. We've been to Manitoba for a couple of projects, and we've been out to Labrador for a couple of projects, and then northern Quebec as well. So we're venturing, we're reaching out, and it's coast to coast to coast is the
Right.
tagline this year. So
Because even arranging this interview with you and through Amy, basically it was a little bit difficult because she said you're traveling back and forth. So is it that you actually travel to all these different areas working with the communities?
yes, yeah, we go into each community, and a part of our strands is trust building and relationship building
Okay.
to create lasting results. And so to create that trust and that relationship, you have to meet people, right? So we go into their communities, and they teach us, about the river systems, about the lakes that are local, and we get to experience kind of their home, right? And that's where the best relationships start. And for a lot of our projects, that's really important because we're working with community members for years at a time sometimes. So it's important to have that trust and that foundation. So going to the communities is part of the one of the best parts of the job, I would say.
Right, right. You get to meet all these new people and work with them, right?
Exactly.
Now, I've seen on your website that you have an internship program. Tell us a little bit about this internship program.
Yeah, so the internship program is specific to drinking water. And that was part of the challenge, right? We started in Uganda with drinking water as the challenge. And so the internship, it's an 18-month program, and we hire local Indigenous youth, so usually 18 to 30, sometimes outside of that range as well, whoever is interested in becoming a water treatment operator. And so within that 18-month program, those youth participate in workshops that help them understand water quality and learn how to use some of the tools. And we help them work through to gain their provincially recognized certifications to allow them to become water treatment operators.
I see. I see. So this internship is more about training the indigenous community to how to operate these water treatment plants and more about what you're testing and what you're looking for, basically. Yes.
Yeah, so we are called Water First, but our full name is Water First Education and Training Inc. And
I
so
see.
the focus is on education and training.
Right.
So because there are so many Indigenous communities that are under a drinking water advisory of some sort, we are really trying to get to the root of the problem, and that is not having the local expertise, not having the capacity within the community to correct the drinking water issue. So it might be as simple as, knowing how to change the filter in the water treatment plant, or how to, do the correct calculations to have the right amount of chlorine for the disinfection step. And those are skills that can be learned by community members. And so by helping the community members get those certifications, then we're helping them get the job within their community, and they're supporting their own community, and they're feeling good because, they are helping bring life, essentially, because everyone needs water. And
Right.
yeah, and that's kind of the goal, is that, we leave that knowledge in the community, and then they can train, the next generation coming.
Right. So I also saw that you guys have these environmental restoration projects. Tell us a little bit about these environmental. Now, just a little bit. We big into elections. Every party now is talking about environment and environmental cleaning the environment and stuff like that. These restoration projects. What are these projects that you guys are involved in?
Mhm. So a lot of our environmental projects are really community driven. So again, getting to know those community members, and they trust us and share kind of what their concerns are. So the environmental projects vary. It can be a water quality baseline study, and a lot of communities that need that are, concerned about infrastructure or industry happening around their community, and being able to say, this is what the water was on X date, and we saw a change when that industry or whatever was being, making changes to the land. So the baseline water quality work that we've done is for that purpose. So they can have, a starting point and say, look, there was some changes, we're concerned, and here's the data to support that, right? So bringing that education and training into the communities so they can have experts that know their water quality. Then we had other programs, they're worried about their fish populations. So fish population studies, we've helped kind of train community members on how to monitor the fish population. And we've done spawning shoal rebuilds as well, restoring and sustaining, spawning shoals so that the fishing industry can continue at a high capacity. So it's really community dependent.
Right. Okay. So yes, it depends on what the requirements are in these communities is what you try to help. And again, your focus is on education. So you don't actually get involved in the actual putting the fishes in and stuff like that. You're more about educating them on how to go about doing it and let them do it. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So if it is like a nursery of some sorts, then they would be taking care of the fish. We might be there when they're setting the fish in.
Right.
But yeah, it's really making sure that they have the skills to continue when
Right.
we're not there, right? They
Okay.
get the knowledge and it's sustainable without water first. So
Maybe, yeah, maybe you guys should adopt the motto. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Maybe you
exactly.
guys should adopt that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But in the case of a lot of these communities, they've been fishing a long time before water first arrives, right? So,
Right, right,
so they actually teach us a thing or two sometimes as well. So it's
right,
really great
right,
to have that reciprocal learning opportunity to get some
right,
traditional
right, right,
knowledge
right.
and
Yes,
fishing, yeah,
I
techniques.
see. So you are a coordinator, a project coordinator, sort of an education coordinator with Water First. Tell us a little bit about that and working with the students, because I guess you deal with a lot of schools and education in terms of education. Tell us about some of the programs. Like, how would you go about? You go to a school. Is it that you meet with the entire school, or you meet with certain classrooms, certain classes? Maybe it's between a certain grades, and then you talk about this. Is that? Tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so I go into school specifically as my job, and we primarily focus on grades 6, 7, 8. So
Okay.
an intermediate range. We try to work with every single class in a school to make sure, you know, that the students are getting the hands-on activities that we're bringing, because we are trying to inspire the youth to become water scientists, to care about the water and about the land. So we bring activities for kindergarten up to grade 12. So not every community has a school that's K to 12. Sometimes most are K to 8. But when there's a community that does go K to 12, we love to get into the more technical science. And that really broadens the pathways for high school students to know, you don't have to be, a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor. You can be a water scientist. There are jobs out there that require these skills that allow you to be outside on the land. So just different pathways. So that's kind of our goal.
Right, right, right. I see. And you said between what, between grade 6 and grade 8.
Yeah,
Right,
so that's our main kind of demographic, I guess. What
right.
we have is we have 3 different units right now that we can offer to a school. So it's like a water quality analysis introduction. It's called What's in Your Water.
Okay.
Then we have a unit called Full Circle, and that looks at the water treatment process and how the water comes from the land, goes through the pipes, the water treatment process, and then when you flush it, it heads back to the land, so it comes full circle.
Right.
And then we have a healthy habitats unit as well, so that's focusing more on fish populations and the spawning shoals and things like that. And whatever the school is interested in, whatever the teacher might want, they would choose that. And so it's 4 to 5 consecutive lessons for the core group, which would be the 6, 7, or 8 class. And then the other classes we work with at least once to say, here's a fun hands-on water science activity. And you could do that as your job, right? Just
Okay. So is it done like in one seminar, one session, or is it multiple over a couple of weeks?
yeah,
Multiple
so
sessions. Yeah.
it is multiple sessions, but
Okay.
it's typically only 1 week.
Okay.
And so in most schools, you have about an hour and a half block before you would have kind of a recess or a lunch break.
Right.
So we tend to use like the hour and a half block is one of our workshops, and then we'll have that break, and then we'll work with a different class for the next hour and a half, and it goes kind of down the
I
line.
see. I see. Okay. And these these programs. Where are some of these schools that are located? Because I know you're working with the indigenous community. So is it that you deal with schools with the majority of the students from the indigenous community, or is it that you go to any schools? Any of the schools?
Yeah. So We do only go to the Indigenous communities, so the
Okay,
schools that are there. There are some occasions where the community is so small that they don't have their own school, and so those students would go to the local public school. So we would do programming with the local public schools. So our goal as an organization is to work with Indigenous communities in Canada.
right.
Um, there's a place for working with public schools, but we're just not there at this time with our staff, with our capacity. So we're hoping that eventually we'll be able to do programming that is just more of a social awareness and water science mixed together.
Right.
But right now we're just going into those Indigenous schools.
Okay. You mentioned something. You're one of the school coordinators that goes around. How many of you are there? Because and how many schools do you actually service?
That's a great question. So we don't have a solid number that I could say, oh, we work with X amount of schools.
Right.
I can say we've worked with over 50
Okay.
schools.
Right.
Some of those schools have invited us back, and so
Okay.
we'll be back next year, and we were there last year.
Right.
And other schools, are brand new to us, and so we're going further out into Canada. And it's really, if there's interest and they reach out to us, we'll say yes and we'll make it work. So this school year, from September to June, we've had about, I think, 20 schools that we visited this year. And so that's every one of those 20 schools is a week-long program. So we've done about 20 weeks of school engagement over this school year.
Wow, wow. Okay, so there's something called an inter-program connection that I also saw about your organization. What is this inter-program connection?
Yeah, that's something that a lot of the staff is very passionate about, and it's something that we're trying really hard to do. Basically, the environmental water program and the internship tend to work with older community members, like they've graduated high school, 18 and up. And then we have the schools program, the Indigenous schools water programs that we're in the schools, so it's kindergarten to grade 12. And so we're trying to bridge that gap and say, this is a possibility for you to do as your job. These internships, that can be your real job. So in order to do that, we've invited some of those interns that are in the environmental water program or in the drinking water program to come to the school, talk to the students, tell them what it is you're doing for your job, how you got in contact with water first, what the workshops are like, what your favorite part of being a water scientist is. And it's really amazing to see some of those younger students look at an older community member and say, wow, I didn't know you were a water scientist. I want to be a water scientist. And so it's making those connections within the community, that younger mind seeing that older community member in a different light.
I see, I see. Okay, wow. You guys have these programs well thought out and stuff. I guess you guys have these brainstorming sessions. You sit and try to come up with how best to service these communities. And I guess it's conversations that you have with them with what is needed, as well as you put together these plans.
Yes.
Are there any other organization like yours that work with the Indigenous community as well? I wasn't able to find any.
Yeah, specifically in water science, there's
Yes,
no other organization. Yeah, we're really in a niche market. We're the only name really doing this specific work.
right.
Of course, there are other programs like Science North that work with a lot of Indigenous communities, but they're bringing science more generally.
Right.
And we're very specifically looking at water science. So that's, I think, what makes us special in that market.
Yes, because I looked around to see who else was working, in this community, and I couldn't find any others, and that's why I thought that your organization, Water First, might be one to be a good one to be highlighted, on this program, because mainly the talk of the town now with elections in the air, it's all about climate, environment, water, preserving water, and even reconciliation, right? So
Mhm.
it's quite a bit out there. So I'm glad that your organization has taken the initiative to actually do this sort of thing, in terms of trying to help the indigenous community in
Mhm.
terms of education and basically giving them some technical skills, I guess, because you're all about training, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So these, we've heard about all these fantastic programs that you guys are doing. Tell us about what you guys have for the future in your future plans.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots going on in the future. Actually, we're in an incredible state of growth right now as an organization, and we've hired on quite a few new staff members to help support the work that we have going on. So we're about to launch in the fall another drinking water internship with the North Shore Tribal Council, and so that includes 7 communities between Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie. So that's going to be launching this fall, and a part of the Indigenous schools water programs is that we try to work with every community that's involved in the internship and with the environmental program. So what that means for us as a schools team is that we have 7 new communities to reach out and say, hey, there's an internship going on in your community, and we'd like to invite that intern to your school to help with some water science workshops. So that's excellent for us, new communities, to expand the schools programs. In the environmental water program, we have some work going on in Labrador. So we've just submitted a grant to help Shahajit and Natwashish Innu communities get an aquatics department. So if that grant gets approved, then we have a couple more years of training those interns on some fish population studies and water quality analysis. So we've got that going on. And there's a couple more environmental projects going on in Long Point First Nation, in Sagamok, Saugeen. There's quite a few.
Wow, you guys are, so as you said, your guys are expanding pretty quickly.
Yes.
So that now leads me to my next question. You have all these programs, you have all these future plans, you're expanding so far. How are all of this being funded?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as recent as 2 years ago, I would say the majority of our funding came from government grants. But this year, we've been getting a lot of philanthropic donations. Just people hearing about us and reaching out. We had the Bank of America sponsor us recently, even though we're a Canadian organization. So our reach is being recognized outside of Canada, and that's amazing as well. Patagonia has been a sponsor. Lush has been a sponsor in the past. The Rotary clubs are great sponsors as well, and individual donors as well. So if you go onto our website, you'll have would you like to donate to Water First option, and you can choose any one of our 3 programs. So the drinking water internship, the environmental water internship program, or the schools water programs. And you can say, I'd like specifically for my money to go towards this location, or you can choose, wherever it's best suited for Water First.
Wow. Okay. So that's fantastic. That's good to know that, you have some sponsors, you get government funding. And I guess basically it's all the community that is trying to do this. It's not that you're a non-profit organization that is trying to
Yeah.
do good for the communities. And that's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. There are some communities, they already have some grants, or like, oh, we really want to apply for this Water First. Can you help us write the grant? So there's some occasions where we do that as well.
Right.
So yeah, just
Okay.
supporting our communities the best we can.
That's good. That's good. So we could fastly coming to the end of the program. I just have one last question. How can individuals or even companies get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah, we have done a few presentations. You can always reach out, and if our team has availability, we can speak to your staff, kind of tell a bit more detail on the programs we're running, and if you want to sponsor something specifically, we can give you those extra details. So you can just reach out to info@waterfirst.ngo if you're looking for something more specific. Again, if you want to donate, you can just go directly to our website. It's waterfirst.ngo or .com. You just type it in Google and it'll show up. And that first page just shows you how you might be able to donate. But as an organization, like I said, if you're looking for maybe a staff session to get more information on Water First, we are happy to do that as well.
Good, fine. That's fantastic. You guys are doing some fantastic work out there, and I really have to say congratulations to you and your organization for the work that you guys are doing out there. Well, anyway, Adrianna, thanks a lot for taking the time joining us today on A Pillar of the Community. We really appreciate that you sharing some of this information with us about your organization, the good works that you guys are doing out there for the Indigenous community, working with them, trying to bring more clean water, improve the water quality, and all the training and the workshops that you guys are doing is really, really good. So I want to say thank you for joining us on the program today. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
It was nice having you. So, viewers, that was Adrianna Belinski. She was from the organization called Water First, and they do a lot of programs working with the Indigenous community to try and improve water quality, try and improve the environmental situation with them. And, it's something that you guys out there, in terms of the viewers, should try to get in touch with them, try to donate, try to find out how you can be part of that organization to help their cause and what they're doing. So with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the program today, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.